Hello. This is the 109th issue of Catch of the Day, available on the Branch Talk YouTube channel. Today we're going to continue reading from Doug Mitchell's book, When the Siege Has Ended, EZ5, The Judgment for the Living. Starting near the top of page 5. From the foregoing facts, it is evident that the Protestant Reformation didn't begin in earnest until well after 1500. For Luther didn't even become a monk until 1505, and then became a Catholic priest in 1507, something far different from protesting against the Catholic Church. Though Brother Hodder prepared much of the material for use in the time when the predicted Reformation would take place, such as its organizational publication, the Leviticus, 1 answer, page 38, that governing organ was not even in effect in his day, as evidenced by the fact that he alone would issue membership cards and appoint all members of the Executive Council and trustees for the association's properties, which was a different order of things than is delineated in the Leviticus. Within that very Reformation document, it stated that its constitution and bylaws, as herein codified, will become fully operative when its name will be changed. The Leviticus preface. Therefore, the announcement of the predicted Reformation, Ezekiel's prophecy, is intended to point forward to, didn't come in 1930, because the Protestant Reformation didn't actually begin in 1500, and Luther didn't really begin protesting until 1517, and even then, he had no intention of separating from the Catholic Church. Ben Roden also pointed out that Luther really had made his personal severance from the Catholic Church when he married a nun in 1525, and that was the true beginning of the Protestant Reformation under Luther. Thus, in 1955, 430 years after Luther's personal Reformation, Ben Roden announced the opening of the Judgment for the Living. This situation can be understood by the fact that Brother Hodder said that his message was the final phase of the first angel's message. White House Recruiter, page 37. In the initial phase of the first angel's message, under William Miller, there was a correction in the expected date of the cleansing of the sanctuary, i.e., the end of the 2300 days, that joined it as a midnight cry in the summer of 1844. At the same time, the second angel's message, announcing the fall of Babylon, was being proclaimed. Thus, in 1955, there was likewise a correction made in the date of final phase of the first angel's message, the end of the 430 years. At the time, the final phase of the second angel's message, Revelation 18:1, the branch message, was announcing the fall of Babylon and the true opening of the judgment for the living. While Brother Hodder made a general application of the siege of Ezekiel 4 to his reform work, one of more of a coincidence than of a direct application, see 1 Shepherd's Rod, page 29, the purpose of this study is to look at the events that are portrayed in Ezekiel 5, which are to happen when the siege of Ezekiel 4 is ended, and whether or not those things have happened. Not how the specifics of Ezekiel 4 siege do or don't fit his work. In doing so, we will be able to better understand the siege of Ezekiel 4 and how it relates to the opening of the judgment of the living and that which is to follow its opening. One of the things that Brother Hardif taught was that when the judgment of the dead was over and the judgment for the living began, the scroll was to unroll and we would receive a new message. After the judgment of the dead, which the church has been preaching for a number of years, is over, if the church does not then receive a new message, the message of the judgment of the living, she will have no message, no oil for the time of the judgment of the living. 2 TG 11:13, unrevised. As Brother Hardif repeatedly pointed forward from his time for the opening of the judgment for the living, then that would mean that the judgment for the dead was not over in his day, and the new message for the time in the judgment of the living had not arrived, though the announcement of the new message had arrived, and much of its content was being revealed, though the above quoted TG is the unrevised version. The following is the revised version, which contains the same thought. Now, what is the difference between the oil in the lamp and the oil in the vessels? Just this. The oil that is in the lamp, that already lightens the traveler's path toward the Master's mansion, must represent truth in progress. But the oil in the vessel must represent truth that is to lighten one's path after the former truth has accomplished its work. 4. Page 6. Example. After the harvest, the investigative judgment of the dead is passed. Other truths, even more important, must be introduced for the harvest of the living. I say more important truths because they are concerning the living themselves, concerning those whose own cases are to be weighed in the balances, those who personally are to be judged either as wheat or as tares, either as good fish or as bad fish. Moreover, after the judgment of the dead, which the church has been preaching for a number of years, is over, if the church does not then receive a new message, the message of the judgment of the living, she will have no message, no oil, for the time of the judgment of the living. 2 TG 11:12 and 13. Quite interesting. Take care.